Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so clearing the throat as always. So, what are we doing? All right, we're talking about anything that comes to mind in regards to the NBA. I was watching who was it yesterday? It was Kenny for real, man, and he was doing a rapid fire. I'm like, you know what? I want to do a rapid fire too. I haven't done one in a little bit. It's always fun talking basketball at the top of your head, especially when you have so much NBA jargon just running around in your head for no reason. It's kind of good to decompress anything that you overindulge in any way. So, with me, it comes down to just the NBA and how I love my sport. It's professional basketball. So, got to give credit to some guys who are going completely crazy. Joel Embiid, wow. I don't even know how high his stat line was. I think he had like 100 of everything pretty much in a game against the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz that we know is a very good basketball team, to say the least, at this point. Starting off running and jumping and shooting and doing all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't expect a team that just blew their entire situation up less than 4 months ago to be doing. But here they are doing that very thing, and you got to give them credit. The Utah Jazz are a team that you would expect to come in Philadelphia, give them all they can handle, and they did. But Joel put up a line that was for the ages of 59 points. I think he had like 7 blocks, 8 assists, and some ridiculous amount of rebounds. I don't even know. It was too many. It was too much of everything to even keep up with, to be completely honest with you. And he just impressed us with one of the greatest stat lines in the history of the NBA in a victory at home. You just want to give credit to him for that. And it's one of those situations where, as I look at the Philadelphia 76ers with James Harden just going down, I had them as a contender at the top of the season. It's just kind of tough because you look at their team and you say, okay, do you believe in Doc Rivers? Do you believe in the bench? Do they have enough wing depth? Do they have enough athleticism and various things? But then you look at that big monster, Joel Embiid, and you just realize that he can overcome a lot more than some teams when they don't have those things. He can overcome it. So that's what I learned to respect, is just how much he can mask by himself. That was what I was not aware of when assessing their team in the previous years. I mean, I got to see them in these playoffs that just ended against the Toronto Raptors team that I thought was just top to bottom had more talent than Philadelphia. I wasn't taking into account that they had to deal with Goliath down there, who could pretty much do anything he wants at all times. So, yeah, Joel Embiid is somebody I am aware. You talk about a lot of players who need a lot and don't need a lot. He probably is one of the guys who needs the least amount of help. And can do the most right now, in my opinion, with the least amount of help. Because it looked like to me he had a bunch of guys that, if he weren't on the team last year, would not even made the playoffs. And with him, was able to get out of the first round. So this is one of those situations where I'm just expecting, with him having a healthy James Harden, knock on wood, because obviously he's not healthy, but with Tyrese Maxey another year into his career. Looking at some of those other guys that they have that are around in the form, of course, Tobias Harris as well, continuing his career going strong. I just look at their team, PJ Tucker, some of the guys they've picked up, and I think that they really are a team that you have to be concerned with come into the season if everybody's on point, because of that Goliath monster that is Joel Embiid, who's capable of doing exactly what he did last night against the Utah Jazz. So it's just important in my mind to acknowledge that performance, because I don't know how long it's going to be before we see another line like that, but we don't see them very often, not every year, that's for sure. So shout out to Joel. Man, it's just a lot of good stuff going on in the league right now. Of course, my Lakers got their third victory. We're very happy about that. Lonnie Walker, the third, is making a name for himself. Very excited about that. Anthony Davis's numbers are up in the air, looking better. Westbrook is now a player that we don't even look at the same way as we did 3 weeks ago. A lot of things can change very fast in the NBA. That's the reality of the situation. You can't really be married to anything because one injury can change things, one trade can change things, etc., etc. But when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers particularly, you just have to give credit to Darvin Ham for weathering the storm the way that he has, even though the record looks horrible. If you're paying very close attention to the team like I am, you can see them incrementally getting better and incrementally becoming more responsible in certain specific areas where they started the season off extremely irresponsible and were horrible at. So while the wins have not yet started to reflect in the improvement that the team has made over the last, say, 2 weeks, I believe it will. And for those who are paying very close attention, you see it. They have gotten a lot better very, very quickly. So, yeah, hopefully we can get marginally better into a place where we can actually compete. Because, yeah, that's ultimately what we are not able to do at this point, despite winning our third game out of 13 tries and looking pretty good doing so. So that's what I want to say, man. There was somebody else who went completely mad last night. I just want to acknowledge them, and my mind has gone blank, but it's a lot of players going nuts. Somebody went for 51. Who was it? Darius Garland, I believe it was. Darius Garland, unfortunately in a losing effort, went off for 51 points, I believe it was, yesterday as well. So you got guys dropping historical numbers left and right. You got teams dropping 145. Yeah, in a 145 game to 135. OKC dropped on the Knicks in the Garden. Knicks didn't play no defense. When I say no defense, it was a bunch of jump shots, uncontested jump shots continuing to fall for the OKC Thunder. And I told you guys about the OKC Thunder. They are a team that has nothing but lottery talent. Everybody on the team. There's no scrubs there. There's not even, like, if I'm being fair but harshly honest, I think the upside of the guy, I want to say this right because I don't know if I believe this exactly, but what I'm saying is probably the guy on the back of the bench upside is probably better than the highest level upside youngster. That's what I'm saying to you, the Lakers. Like my favorite player, Austin Reeves, a guy like Wiggins probably has just as much upside or even more upside than him. And Wiggins is like the 10th or 11th guy on the bench. That's what I'm trying to express to you guys. Like their team is just crazy, crazy talented with guys that you've yet to know are big time talented players. So that's what it is. They're going to make a name for themselves, every last one of them. And that's a team I would love to make a trade for if I want to get some youth. A guy like Baisley, a guy like Robinson Earl. Those are guys that I don't know if they have a future with the OKC Thunder because of all the other talent that they have and all the other lottery picks that are coming. So if I'm, say, a young team like, or older team like the Nets or an older team like the Lakers, I would want to do a deal with Sam Presti, even though I'm pretty sure Sam Presti wouldn't have any interest in doing a deal with me. But that's what it is. He got some talent that he can't keep, and it would be wonderful to be able to take one of those guys from him. I would love to add Baisley, for example, to the Lakers right now. He would be our best bench player or starter. Hell, he would be bench. He would be a starter. So it's one of those situations where it's like, that's just what it is, man. You don't know of these teams, but you'll look up in the present day and they'll drop 145 points on your favorite team. Orlando, same thing. If you look now, Orlando might have 2 All-Stars. They might have 2 All-Stars. I'm sure in my mind, I have to say Paolo Banchero is an All-Star. I haven't been paying as close attention to Carter, but chances are if he's been playing like his normal self, he's close to an All-Star. And if you're paying attention to Bol, it ain't going to be long before he's putting up those type of numbers as well. So Orlando is a serious team. Suggs is back playing great. He looks like somebody who's immediately going to start showing why he was the 5th pick in the draft last year. I think it was 5th or 4th. I don't remember. But he was in there as a top 5 pick last year for a reason. And then I did homework on that young fella and realized he has a football background and really doesn't have too many holes in his game at all. He plays defense very well. He assists very well. He can get to the rack. He can shoot the ball. He's a guy that doesn't really have any natural holes. That's what I'm saying to you. Like, even though you've seen him kind of not be a standout rookie because of the injury issues that he had and the logjam that he was in, the reality is, from here, the upside of a guy like Jalen Suggs is crazy. It's absolutely nuts, especially now that he's healthy. So I'm telling you guys, trust you me. When you talk about a guy by the name of Jalen Suggs and the Orlando Magic, do expect them to be close to a playoff team, if not a playoff team this year. Because a guy like Jalen Suggs is like the 4th option or some crazy stuff like that. You think about a guy like Cole Anthony, whose breakout is imminent. You put him on the Lakers right now, he's a starting point guard, probably put up all-star numbers for us. That's how talented he is in that log jam over there. I'm just really in love with what Orlando has, man. I look at Franz Wagner. I think his upside is all-star as well. That's another player that I expect to make all-star teams in his career. It just goes on and on and on and on forever. If the Orlando Magic can keep everybody together, there's no reason why they're not going to be a top 5 team in the NBA over the next 3-4 years. Like, they should develop into being one of the best teams there is. And so as I look at them, I just say, yo, let's give them some credit early. Let's not wait for them to be who it is that we know they're going to become. Let's just look at them respectfully now and take them very seriously when you face their unit. A team that my Lakers are going to be seeing next, even though we don't play again for another 5 days. We're talking about the Detroit Pistons, a team that I think has all the talent in the world as well. We're talking about Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren and what's my guy's name? Isaiah Stewart, who's having a really good season right now. Bogdanovich, and that's somebody I heard about today. If you watch some of the Laker guys, they're talking about the different rumors that the Lakers are interested in being a part of. Bogdanovich is somebody that the Lakers would have liked to have acquired from the Utah Jazz, but actually got traded to Detroit. Well, naturally, the Lakers want to take players away from other teams that don't have winning players, because of course we're a contender, right? Anyway, they have winning players, and we would want those winning players because of course we consider ourselves a win-now team. Even though the Detroit Pistons literally have a better record than us, we're still delusional to think that we have a right to take players from teams and help them win or something. I don't know, but it is what it is. I do think that the Detroit Pistons are a team that probably will be looking to move on from a guy like Bogdanovich. They only really acquired him because he has an expiring contract that has an extending amount coming off of it. But since he's playing at such a high level, they can double their money by selling him high. So that makes all the sense in the world instead of letting him expire and waiting for him to get injured or something like that. So I totally see the fruit in maybe trying to trade him for a pick if they can. And if you're the Lakers, you might even consider doing something like that, given the fact how bad your team looks, given the fact that he's $19 million coming off your books. And the thing about it is, one of the reasons why I was so excited about trading for Kyrie Irving was not just because I'm a fan of the player and think he can help us, but because I know he's coming off the books, just like Westbrook. So that's the key for me. If I'm going to trade Russell Westbrook's expiring contract, part of what it is that's important to me as a fan is bringing back something that either I want for multiple years or something that's expiring too. So that's really what I've been preaching. But all in all, looking at how Bogdanovich is playing, I don't look at him the same way as I looked at him when I was thinking about what our prospect of trading for him was before the season started. He's a different player now. He's putting up much better numbers. He should be taken very seriously. And his $19 million contract for this year looks great. Looks great right now for somebody like us who needs shooting and could use his services. So while I'm not in love with him at $19 million in most situations, if he's going to play like this, yeah, bring him in. That's $19 million for the basketball player right there. So that's the truth. I think he's very much living up to his contract, and I want to acknowledge that. So that's what it is, man. You look at guys, I'm looking at the Houston Rockets. You guys know how I feel about their team. I think they're one of the best young teams ever assembled. I really believe that. Jabari Smith is a piece, and we talked about this very shortly in one of the previous Rapid Fires videos that I did. I thought Jabari Smith was never supposed to be a Rocket. He was actually supposed to be a Magic, and the Magic just chose Banchero. So as I look at Jabari Smith having some of the slow starting issues that he's having right now with his injuries and stuff like that, it's still extremely early in his rookie season. But he's only had 2 very good games thus far. And I just wonder if his fit is what they ultimately want it to be. And since they have so many other players that they're ultimately going to have to pay, I'm wondering if they're ultimately going to land with keeping Jabari or maybe looking to move on from him. And if so, when would they want to do that? Would they want to do it now while he's still considered a top 3 lottery pick? Or are they concerned that his value will go down in the short term or maybe even spike upward in the short term? But since he started off slow, and we have seen the Bagleys of the world go by the wayside and the Bennetts of the world go by the wayside, one would think that maybe the Rockets would want to jump ahead of that if they think for some reason he's not going to head in the right direction with them. You think about different teams that could probably take him on, use his piece directly for what he is and turn him into the best version of himself. I don't know that you're going to see that in Houston with all the mouths that they have to feed. He's a volume shooter, somebody who probably, when he fully develops, you want taking about 17, 20 shots a game because of the efficiency capabilities that he should develop into becoming. So I look at him as a guy who's going to eventually develop into a first or second option on a winning team. And so if he's going to have that type of upside, you don't want to see some of the issues that they're having systematically trying to fit him in right now. And there's just so many good players on the team. I can't stress it enough. A guy like Alperen Sengun, He's an aggressive guy. You know, you may not have a good game if you're Jabari Smith just off of the strength that Alfred Sengun is going nuts. You know, you look over and see Porter, he's going nuts. You look over in Green, going nuts. Like they have a bunch of guys. Maybe Christopher, a guy like Josh Christopher. Anybody who sees Josh Christopher's numbers and think that's who he is does not know what they're talking about. Josh Christopher is twice as good as a player that he's able to show himself to be for the Houston Rockets. Twice as good. Like literally twice as good. So he's the type of player, again, just like I said about Bazley and OKC, I want Josh Christopher on my team right now, and I'm expecting him to turn to something a lot better than what I would be acquiring him to be. I'm telling you right now, he's that guy. He is definitely that guy. And they just don't have he's not better than Green. You know, it's that kind of thing. So it's like, you know, when it's all said and done, we might be talking about Clyde Drexler and Michael Jordan type stuff. You just don't know how good these guys are. You really don't know. You know, so it's like, I don't know if I really want to give up any of them if I'm the Houston Rockets. But what I don't have the luxury of doing is keeping all of them. So they have that issue and a few other teams as well. And if I'm the Lakers, that's kind of like, that's what I'm dreaming about. If I'm being real with you guys, I know. And look, this is something I want to say as a Laker fan. I know this. It's not necessarily acceptable for me to be aiming for the same pieces that the Indiana Pacers would aim for, the Utah Jazz are aiming for, because I'm the Lakers and I need to have a star and all that crap. But my mindset is I really don't care for that as a fan. I just so happen to be a Laker fan. You see what I'm saying? That I didn't choose the Lakers because they were the glamorous franchise that always gets the stars. I chose the Lakers because Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones played for the team. Like literally, I didn't even like a team that was that great when I started loving the Lakers. So for me, it's like I just want to see development and championships. And I know that there's a right way and a wrong way to handle things, and I just know we're in between. We're not really anywhere. And so for me, I just want my team to just kind of acknowledge that from on high, and so on and so forth. So that's really my thing. If we can do anything for ourselves at all, it's weasel our way to getting the Bazleys and the Josh Christophers off of these teams. That's what we need to be doing. If there's any way we can finesse our way to having players like that who are in situations where they have too many young players and not enough roles, that's what you do. You take your picks and you acquire those guys who are worth picks anyway. You see what I'm saying? Not taking away picks, taking your picks and then trading them away for a Bradley Beal, who's literally going to fall off a cliff with his production any day now because he's older already. Just out of sheer respect for his age, it's just natural. He's going to fall off a cliff. So you don't pick him up thinking he's going to be 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Bradley Beal, when you're going to be holding him for the next 2 years. That's how the math always messes people up. It's like, bro, he was doing that 2 years ago. Where do you think his legs are now? You know, 164 games later, where do you think his legs are now? It's like, come on now, let's be honest. There's something called wear and tear, and we need to acknowledge how long 4 years is, 5 years is, if you try to put together the same pieces that you initially wanted to put together when you first put the core together. It's like, it's years later, y'all. It's totally years later. And you can absolutely find that production in a different young player if you can just project what that player's projection will be and get it early. Like, don't go for the late guy. Take a chance on the early guy. That's all I'm saying. That's just who I am, though. I'll tell you, man. But the thing that the Lakers have taught me is you can't have too many role players. As I told you guys in the previous video about my squad, I like most of these guys. Only 2 of them I actually really want gone, that I think cannot play at all and just don't need to be on our team. The rest of these dudes are good, but they can't be the unit. They cannot be what the meat and potatoes of your team is. That's all. You just need these guys in certain situations. Okay, give me one of those in Philly. Give me one of those with Boston. Give me one of those in Utah. This is how it works for our team. Every team should want one of these guys on the back of their bench. That's how that should go. But unfortunately, we put all of them together to make our team. So, yeah, I want that undone, of course, and so on and so forth. So, moving on. I'm really, really curious to see how the Denver Nuggets are going to push forward right now. I haven't been watching them. I don't know how they're doing. But I have watched the stats of some of the guys, right, playing fantasy football. basketball rather. You can see how Aaron Gordon is playing well. You can see how Jamal Murray's playing well. You can see that Jokic is healthy and doing what Jokic does. These type of things. I'm just curious about the team. I'm not sitting here saying I know anything. I'm looking at the pieces like KCP. I'm looking at pieces like Bruce Brown. I'm looking at pieces like Bones Highland. And I just say, throughout the course of the season, they're going to have their ebbs and flows because they're pretty average. But you meet them in the playoffs, and I think if you're not matched up properly, you probably get knocked off. I think that the Denver Nuggets are probably going to be a team that does better in the playoffs than they do in the regular season. And I think that is because Porter and Murray are going to get better and better and better as the games go. So by the playoffs, they're going to be somebody different than they are right now. Bones Highland, same thing. It's a second-year player. He's going to be better by the end of the year than he is right now. Jokic is Jokic. You can pencil him in as long as he's healthy for being just Jokic, and that's it. He's his own level. And then you got, some of the other players on the team that just collectively make them a solid but not elite unit. But they're a dangerous, solid but not elite unit because of players like KCP, who won championships, who are going to be on the floor the majority of the time, doing things on the defensive end and hitting clutch shots on the other side, forcing steals and stuff like that. As somebody who's a Laker fan, I know what KCP can do for you in the playoffs. He's already proven it. We won a championship with him being our starting shooting guard. So I know. I already know. It's one of those things where it's like when you've won with a guy, you have a special understanding of what they can do, good and bad. KCP is going to help Denver like crazy. So I just look at that team, I say, if they can keep this up, Mike Malone's been a long-standing tenured coach there. He seems to be going strong. If they can keep this up, I think they can sneak their way into a very successful playoffs this season. Very successful, despite not being one of the top super-duper teams. Because I look at the Golden State Warriors, and we ain't talked enough about their woes, but I'm not surprised, man. If you guys follow me, I think you understand that I put a bit more of an emphasis on some of the players that the Golden State Warriors lost than maybe the average person has put on them. Otto Porter Jr., Gary Payton II. I don't think that they're functioning very well without those two players. And that's not a surprise to me because I'm of the mindset that they really, really contributed a great deal to the winning. A lot of people contributed to the scores being high, to the game being pretty, to them ultimately being the Warriors. But when it came down to winning situations, when they needed certain things to happen, it was those two players, along with Andrew Wiggins, who essentially helped form a secret defensive elite nature to their team that had nothing to do with the glamorous aspect of their team. The Splash Brothers and Draymond and the Poole. This dynamic had nothing to do with it. These were players on the wing that were able to be thrown on all the best wings in the league so that them dudes never got exposed to having to guard them. Steph Curry didn't have to guard none of those people. Draymond Green only had to partially guard those people. Klay Thompson didn't only have to partially guard those people because Wiggins, Porter, Gary, those guys, only one of them's left. Only one of them left. And then you think about guys like Bielitsa, who sort of like for my Lakers, if he was on my Laker team, he would just be another problem, right? Respectfully. But for the Golden State Warriors, for what they were, what they needed, when you called his number, you never had no drop-off. Situations where most teams give their lead back because their players suck on the back of their bench, and you got to bring your starters back in even though they're tired and they resting their their legs, and they got the ice on their knees, but they got to come back in the game. You ain't never got to come back in the game with the type of depth the Golden State Warriors had last year. Bielitsa and Gary Payton and those guys, you couple that with the Mooney, Wiseman, they had so much depth last year, they ain't never worry. They weren't leaning on the young guys either. Because they had so much help for the young guys in the past, those young guys did not develop in a way to be able to handle what it is that they're now responsible for. So what you have is a learning curve for those young players with the new responsibilities that they have. Couple that with the guys that are missing. And then you look at these new players and you say, well, who are they? You got Wiseman coming back from knee, but he's a center. A big center, offensive center. Have they had that in place ever? No, they never had it in place. I don't think they've ever had a center in place that does what he does, except for maybe Boogie for like half a second. Right? They just don't. They've never had that dynamic in place. And you look at a guy like Moody, Okay, you got Moody down there, but is he going to get consistent minutes? No. Why? Because he got a million other guards around there, that wings that play his position. But are any of them lockdown defenders, like say Otto was or Gary was? No. No. You're looking at Klay Thompson, who's taking some steps backwards. Not that defender anymore. Wiggins, of course, still Wiggins. But you're looking at PB and J, they're not really using him like that. Moody and those guys, so they have different defensive assignments. A guy like Kuminga, different defensive assignments because guys are not in place that otherwise would have taken those assignments away from him. Now, of course, you still have Looney in place, Draymond still in place, which also makes it so that they have a different type of rotation than they used to having, based on those other young bigs kind of pushing forward and pressing up against them for minutes. So it's just a lot of different things that make it so that the Golden State Warriors team is very different. They're leaning on players that have different strengths than they have in the past. And they don't have defensive players in place that kind of guard the wings very easily as they used to. So now it's incumbent upon them guys who didn't have those assignments, who were being hidden last year, to now step up and take on those defensive assignments as to which they're having no success. So the Golden State Warriors are not the greatest defensive team. They can still put up 1 billion points on you. And as those offensive players continue to get better, you might see them start to do some really special things scoring the ball. 155, 165. They will be very capable of putting up historic numbers once everybody starts becoming their comfortable, natural scoring selves, because that's what they have, is an abundance of scoring talent. So that's what it is. They just got to find a new identity. They got to find a new identity or reacquire the guys they lost. To be utterly honest with you, I look over at Gary Payton and I say, damn it, I don't know what they have to do to recreate the space race contract, but ain't nothing happening in Portland with him. He should not be there. He signed a bag contract, in other words, to get the bag, but they didn't have the role. That's the only thing. It's like, damn, Gary, you took the bag, but they don't have no money. They don't have the role for you to be yourself. Now you're just going to be sitting on the back of the bench behind guys like Sharp and Simons, and Dame, and just like your Golden State Warriors, the team you were just on that won the championship, they still need your piece. They literally still need you to defend. So it's one of those situations where if I'm the Golden State Warriors, I'm reacquiring him if possible at the trade deadline. I'm giving away I got to go back and get the pieces that work. This is my thing about them going with their legacy. It's like, I like Klay Thompson as much as the next guy, believe you me, but if he can't give me what the players that lost are giving me defensively, then there is going to be a problem there. He's always been known as one of the greatest defenders ever. But with those injuries, he's just not the same physically. So now it's like, all right, you can't let Gary leave. You can't let Otto leave. Because he needs to not have those assignments. So, I don't know. Look at the Golden State Warriors. I say, I don't suspect that they're going to always have issues this season. They're going to get their stuff together. They're going to be a serious contender at some point. Because they have to be. But at the end of the day, it's going to be difficult. So, that's what it is.